Please note the location of your nearest exit in the case of an emergency and move as far away from the building as possible if needed. This is streaming online at the moment. They're still trying to work on the TV connectivity. Hopefully they will get that fixed ASAP. Derry deliberative session, West Running Brook Middle School, February 5th, 10 a.m. Christina Guilford, moderator. First session under SB2 RSA 40:13, February 5th, 2022, 10 a.m. Second session under SB2 RSA 40:14, March 8th, 2022, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. All districts will vote at Calvary Bible Church, 145 Hampstead Road. We will now come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by a remote performance from Gilbert H. Hood Middle School Student Council President Peter Dancy.
You can be in either room.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And that was brought to you by compliments of the Gilbert H. Hood Middle School Select Chorus, led by Miss Kate Bover, music teacher and chorus director. Please be seated. You're all seated. Yay. Bear with me, this is the first time I do this. Introduction of our school board. Erica Cohen, chair. Derek Anderson, vice chair. Brenda Willis, Paul Lutz, Jessica Ring, Lynn Perkins, Jonathan Dugan. Introduction of our administration. Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Marianne Connors-Krikorian. Assistant, Dr. Austin Garofalo. Business Administrator, Ms. Jane Simard. Interim Director of Student Services, Ms. Laura Powers. Our attorney is Peter Phillips of Seoul, Leslie, Kidder, Sayward, and Lowman. Our school district clerk, Mary Ellen Tagliatella, and our assistant moderators today are Kevin Gordon, Sean Guilford, and Rick Betts. Our recorder is Tammy Lamps. Our sound system is done by New England Audio Tech, Jib Clark. I'm going to introduce our candidates for school board. There are 3 positions for 3-year terms. Please stand when I call your name. Brenda Willis, Brian Pinnell, Butch Tempe, Daniel Ferrarini, I am so sorry, David Clapp, Elizabeth LaFauci, Jonathan Dugan, Lynn Perkins, Maria Toledo, Richard Tripp, and Stephen Schaefer. I know what it's like to put your name on a ballot. Thank you very much. The purpose Our purpose of the meeting today is the deliberative session to finalize the official ballot, and our voting session will be to vote on the official ballot on March 8th. The purpose of the warrant is to notify the townspeople of the items to be discussed at this meeting. It is the only subject matter to be discussed at this meeting. No other business or subject will be addressed other than those items on the warrant. Rules of order, organization of the floor. Assistant moderators will assist with vote counting when needed. There is a microphone location. When you approach the microphone, please clearly state your name and address for the record, and then begin your discussion. Those that are in the secondary room, please let the moderator know that you wish to speak, and then I will recognize you. With the exception of the initial presentation offered by the board, there will be a time limit for discussion, 3 minutes total. Green light for 2.5 minutes, a yellow light to indicate 30 seconds left, and flashing red means your time is complete. Please note that you may return to speak again once all others have finished speaking. Common courtesy, please respect each other as you would wish to be respected. The limits of debate. All speakers must be courteous and must speak to the issues, not the individuals raising them. This moderator will not allow personal attacks or inappropriate language. No amendments may be offered which do not pertain to the subject posted on the warrant. If there is no amendment, there is no vote required. I will ask the recorder to place the warrant on the ballot as written. When speakers become redundant, I will declare a limit to debate. One additional speaker will be permitted, and then debate will be closed and the motion moved. All amendments require a simple majority. Ballots were issued at the door. They are personal and kept by the voter until the end of this session. At that time, we ask that you please return them to the box located at the exit on your way out. A show of ballots with your hand raised will be used on all votes to determine the majority. If it appears to be a tie, a second show of hands will be taken with a full count by the assistant moderators. If tied again, then a ballot vote will be taken. Motions to call the question limit debate and require a 2/3 vote. If passed, these motions stop debate on a motion. However, any voters standing at the microphone and anyone seated at the head table who has previously told the moderator that he or she wishes to speak on the motion will be allowed to speak. In addition, the moderator shall have the right to refuse to recognize a motion to call the question if, in the moderator's opinion, the voters have not yet had an adequate opportunity to discuss an issue. A request that any article or question be acted upon by secret ballot will require a minimum of 5 voters who are present and identified at the meeting and must make a request in writing. And the written request must be presented to the moderator prior to the end of the debate on the article or question. Reconsideration. If a motion to restrict reconsideration is approved on an item, it cannot be reconsidered before the second session. Now to the warrant. Derry Cooperative School District, State of New Hampshire, 2022 warrant for deliberative school district meeting. Christina Guilford, District Moderator. To the inhabitants of the school district in the town of Derry, New Hampshire, qualified to vote in district affairs. First session of annual meeting, deliberative. You are hereby notified to meet at the West Running Brook Middle School, 1 West Running Brook Lane, in said district on the 5th day of February, 2022, 10 a.m. This session shall consist of explanation, discussion, and debate of warrant articles numbers 2 through 7. The warrant articles may be amended subject to the following limitations. Warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended. Warrant articles that are amended shall be placed on the official ballot for a final vote on the main motion as amended. And no warrant article shall be amended to eliminate the subject matter of the article. Second session of annual meeting, voting. Voting on warrant articles 1 through 7 shall be conducted by official ballot to be held in conjunction with town voting on the 8th day of March, 2022. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Districts 1, 2, 3, and 4 will vote at Calvary Bible Church, 145 Hampstead Road. Warrant 1, to choose the following school district officers, 3 school board members at large, each for a 3-year term. I ask the recorder to place that warrant article on the ballot as written. 2, shall the school district raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by the vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $94,252,087. Should this article be defeated, the 2022-2023 default budget shall be $94,354,540, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the school district or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. This is recommended by the Derry School Board. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you, Erica. Thank you, Derek. And there's a presentation?
Yes. Welcome, everyone, and thank you very much for coming. We appreciate all of you here, and we look forward to sharing with you information about the budget. The first thing to note on the warrant article is that the tax impact is an estimate. There will be unspent money at the end of this year due to unfilled positions because of COVID, excess retirement, FICA, and also health insurance, along with unfilled positions and excess Pinkerton funds, as enrollment is always an estimate, and if we do not put money in the budget, we cannot spend it. Those unspent funds for this coming year that will come at the end of this year and would be applied in the fall cannot be included at this time because they have not been unspent yet. Just remember that every $100,000 is about 3 cents on the tax rate. So that is some general information. This budget could not have been possible without the work of a lot of people. The 7 school board members you see at this table have worked very hard on it, as have our administration and the members of the Fiscal Advisory Committee. The Fiscal Advisory Committee members are all volunteers who came to numerous meetings, did a lot of research, and spent a lot of time thinking about what they were looking for and asking questions. In the annual report, they wrote a letter about what they saw in the budget, and they would really appreciate it, as would we if you read it, as their input is valuable, and they spent time pulling it together. So this slide just tells you a bit about our district. We are a pre-K to 8 district in terms of direct control, and that's 3,121 students in 5 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, an early education program, and a couple of other buildings. This slide shows our school board class size goal. These are aims. We do not always meet them. We are sometimes below them, and it will change. It is something that we constantly watch. They are strive for goals, and we do our best. This slide shows our enrollment, and something to see here is that while we are projected to lose high school students in the coming years, our projections do not show a lot of loss at the K to 8 level, and specifically a lot of those numbers reflect K to 5, where we are not expected to lose a lot of students. Just for something to people to keep in mind, because we have 7 schools in deep, a drop of even 100 students would not have a huge impact on our budget numbers, which is mostly staffing, unless all of those students were in the same school and the same grade. So this slide shows our area enrollment, so you can see that we are the 3rd largest district in the state. So this budget includes 2 new positions, a part-time HR assistant and 1 elementary school classroom based on class size numbers. One thing to note about the half-time HR position, We did do some research before approving this position. Compared to similar towns of our size, the half-time HR position results in us having similar numbers to other towns. So for example, Salem with 700 employees has this exact staffing now, where we did not have this staffing and we were struggling to meet all of the many HR needs, especially with COVID, which increased them. Also note on the last slide that that does not reflect any changes in union, either the DEA or AFSCME, because that is on a separate warrant. This slide gives everyone an overview of our benefits and what they cost. As you can see, we have a total decrease in $417,000, and there's various reasons for that, but we have been using less healthcare. So this slide is one that a lot of people ask about. When we put in a number for healthcare, we are given by our provider what's called a guaranteed maximum. And what a guaranteed maximum means is that we are told we will not have to spend more than that, but we don't know to what level. And since, as I said, we can't spend money that isn't budgeted, we do have to put in that guaranteed maximum. You can see that in recent history, most years we are very close to the guaranteed maximum, and usually it's a reasonable number. We did have one spike in fiscal year 2018 where both the guaranteed maximum and the actual was higher than usual. This slide shows our contributions to retirement. Retirement, a long time ago, was partly funded by the state. It no longer is. Now it's funded by us. So you can see in 2011, we were funding between the teachers and other employees between 5.7 and about 6.8, and now we're over 20% for teachers and around 15 for administrators, so that definitely impacts our budget. So these are our projected costs for grades 9 through 12. Please note these costs do not include Pinkerton. While we do tuition our students to Pinkerton, there are certain special education and other services we must provide that also fall into high school, but are not part of Pinkerton tuition. So these are the two things there. So the first one includes our transportation, tutoring, facility, and other costs we bear. These costs went up last year. The second cost is Next Charter School. So the jump in Next is due to the fact that we had 9 additional students enrolled in Next. So here you see our Pinkerton costs. These are not costs these are costs that are sent to us by Pinkerton. You can see that our regular education tuition went up slightly and that special education tuition went up a little more. But one thing to note here, we always are looking at our projections and what is actually spent. So as a result, this budget reflects reducing the number of students we expect to go to Pinkerton by 30 and reducing how much we put in the special education budget by $700,000 because historically that line had been underspent. So this slide shows our long-term debt. So the pink bars you see there are the Hood and Barca bonds. So Barca was our newest school, built 17 years ago, and we did some improvements at Hood. 2023, 2024 is the last year of that debt, and then the remaining bars are just the Honeywell project. But one thing to remember about Honeywell is that expense on the bond is required by the contract we signed to be matched by energy savings, and in fact, in recent years, we have saved more than the cost of the bond. So this slide shows our revenue summary. So we've had a lot of questions about this, if it's helpful for everyone to understand that in our unreserved fund, that does include the retained funds from last year that now by law have to go back to taxpayers. It also includes a health insurance rebate we got this year. So that money is already in the budget. You can see here that our revenue went down. There were a number of reasons. One was state aid, but I do want to note that we were supposed to be made whole by the changes in state aid. The problem was we had fewer students and we had to drop in the numbers of people filing free and reduced lunch since food has been free, so it was difficult to get people to file. So as a result of those changes, while we were supposed to be made whole, we ended up in the negative there, which we are trying to encourage people to fill out their forms and address things, but that was not the intent. So this is our budget summary. As you can see, our total spending went up 0.87% or $816,000. Our budget, the majority of our budget, we did not have that much change in. That's why there's this very small change. And we do our best to keep costs in line. So this slide shows the educational cost breakdown. And just to remind everyone, if you just look at educational costs pre-K to 8, our spending actually went down. If you look at grades 9 to 12, that second line once again does not include Pinkerton. That is costs such as out-of-district tuition and contracted services that when they can't be provided at Pinkerton, we have to pay for out of our own budget and our high school costs. And once again, Next went up because we added more students. So we put in this slide so that you can see how the tax impacts breaks down. So we're at about, I have bad eyes, but it's about 57 or 58%. And what that means is it's the percentage of your tax rate that's going towards schools. And you can see we're a little higher than the middle of the pack, but there are many towns that spend a larger percentage of their tax rate on education. So this is informational. This next slide is important because just as you have your house budget and you don't want to have huge spikes in costs from year to year, as a school district, we don't want to have huge spikes in costs from year to year. So what we look to do is by retaining funds and putting it towards the next year's budget, if there's not an emergency, we're able to keep the tax rate relatively flat for the education portion part and not have it go up or down too much so that you don't see huge spikes in your own tax bill. That is our intent. So this last slide is information about Esser funds. So Esser, as a reminder, these are COVID stimulus funds we got as a result of the pandemic. We have a number of positions this year: special education facilitator, math interventionists, and counselors. These are the types of positions we can fill by Esser and would like to. They are not included in the budget because we haven't filled them yet. They will be for next year. What is included in what positions are in the budget but have no tax impact because we are using Esser are a special education facilitator, an elementary math subscription, tech software, administrative computers, and a license for Edmentum. Those costs add up to $370,000. We took those out of general funds and put them into Esser to save taxpayer dollars. So that's about 12 cents on the tax rate that's saved. So with that, that concludes the presentation of the budget, and I thank you all for listening and being here to learn about it.
Thank you, and I will open the mic up for discussion. Name and address for the record as a reminder.
Good morning, Richard Tripp, 44 Wyndham Road. I have a question about why you have the presentation on a screen, but we don't have a copy provided to the people at the deliberative session so that we could look at it during the discussion and possibly have any further questions. You know, I could not really see what was going on the screen, and unfortunately, it went by pretty quickly. So I would ask that in future years that the school board provide copies of the presentation that's used to describe the budget. Thank you.
Erica Leon, 84 Shanita Road. I want to thank the chairman of our board for such a great presentation and getting into a lot of the nuance of this budget for people to understand better. I have a question about the cost that's given to us from Pinkerton. Is the regular rate that's referenced in their tuitions on page 121 something we can compare to other high schools in the state, or is it on a different basis?
Try to answer that. So the number we get from Pinkerton is typically their regular education costs, and I know we've kind of gone over this in the past for people, but we also have an a la carte menu, and that would be for special services that are required. Typically, Pinkerton does not publish the entire cost per town, because if they have 5 sending towns, they're all going to be different. Ours is usually pretty high because we have more special education students. So it's always difficult to pinpoint our actual tuition cost for Pinkerton. We're asking them to do that for us in the future, but currently they do not do that.
May I ask a follow-up question? Do they provide that for all of the sending towns together to have a full school tuition rate on a comparable basis with the special education that other high schools do in the state?
They do not, to my knowledge, they do not provide a actual total end cost per pupil tuition rate for any sending town.
Thank you very much.
I do have a speaker in the other room.
Provide the actual total end cost per pupil for any sending.
Thank you very much.
We do have a speaker in the other room.
Okay. Hi, my name is Daniel Ferrarini. I am also running for school board for Derry. I'd like to ask a point of order as to why there was no signage saying that there is a unmasked area. The signage only says mask required, but that could cause some confusion to any individual who does not want to wear a mask.
Anyone who didn't want to wear a mask just had to say so, and they were directed to the unmasked area.
Anyone who didn't want to wear a mask had to say so, they were directed to the unmasked area.
Having the signage say mask required would indicate that there would be no choice. I just kind of walked in without a mask, and I was then directed. But someone who might see the sign and say, I need to wear a mask, might not think anything of it.
Again, I'm very sorry. I'm sure if this is an issue again next year, we will be sure to have unmasked area signage.
Very sorry for if this is an issue again next year. So be sure to have unmasked.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Brian Chiricello, 6 Rollins Street. First want to congratulate Marion Kokorian for her retirement, wish her well. You know, both my daughters who are in their 30s now actually were in Grinnell when I actually first met Marianne, so I know she's been here for a while, and I appreciate all your efforts for the school district. My question is on the teaching positions. How many teaching positions are basically paper positions that we can't fill? I know that we're going through tough times trying to find people in all different areas of jobs. I see it at Rockingham County quite a bit with nursing and correctional officers, so I know that's a struggle. But I'm trying to figure out how many teaching positions do we need to fill?
There are 33 unfilled positions. Those include 16 special ed assistants. When those aren't filled, we either use substitutes or we will sometimes pull in other teachers. Those positions are required under students' IEPs, so if we don't have them there as paper positions, we are out of compliance. They are very difficult to fill. There are also a psychologist coordinator, and a psychologist, and importantly, 3 speech language pathologists. Those are positions we've had to use contracts for that are very expensive, but they are also required by IEPs. The other unfilled positions are a crossing guard and 5 custodians and a cook and server. Positions we need, but I wanted to give you a full picture.
Okay. And realistically, do we feel confident that we can fill them this year? I know it's quite a struggle, so.
We are definitely struggling to fill them, but as I said, they are in the budget because they are required by students' IEPs, and we don't want to be out of compliance.
Okay.
It is a statewide problem, not just
Yeah,
us.
no, understood. I understand that fully. One quick comment, we need to strive to find efficiencies because I'm witnessing a lot of our elderly in town on fixed incomes. I had a chance to meet a group of people, and I was just shocked by some of the comments where people were actually sharing medication because they're on fixed income. And we all know what the economy's doing right now with food costs and heat. My heating, I just got an oil delivery that was outrageous, but, so it's tough, and I get it. We have to find a balance with the children, I get that, but we need to find efficiencies and do a little bit better job with that, but that's it. Thank you very much.
Hi, Deborah Pierce, 62 Adams Pond Road, Derry. First of all, I'd like to second the request to have a hard copy of the slides, because while it's really great that you provided the actual data, those slides provide a summary that people make judgments on. So it would be best if we could all have a hard copy of that to take home to compare the hard data to the summary. My other question is regarding the Esser funds that you mentioned. It's not mentioned in here what that money was used for, so I would like some information on what that money was used for. Was it used for improved ventilation or anything other than hiring?
Anything other than what?
Hiring. You're talking
So-
about hiring.
During the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of ESSER funds were not used actually for hiring. They were used for PPE, they were used for cleaning, they were used for staffing to pay for people to do additional cleaning, they were used for technology, because in order to have students remote, we needed additional computers. So they were used for a number of things, and the only hiring we can use PPE funds for are new positions that don't, COVID funds are for new positions that do not already exist. There are very strict rules on COVID funds.
So you did not use it to improve any ventilation at all in the schools?
We did use it to improve ventilation.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa Halpern, 75 Warner Hill Road. I have a question about the speech pathologists and special ed positions. We're using outside contractors right now to fill those positions, and it's costing a higher rate. So wouldn't it just make more sense to offer more money for the salary and entice somebody to come in, since we're spending the money anyway? And it might make it a little easier to fill the positions. I suppose that was a statement, not a question.
So I can answer part of your question, and then I'll have the administration chime in. But for positions that are part of a union, we can't just offer a higher rate. Those wages are set. There are cases where we can ask for higher rates, and I'll let the administration talk to that. So that what I said was true. Where it's part of a union, you can't offer a higher rate because those positions are set, but there are some times where we can negotiate to offer a higher one.
So hire somebody outside of the union. Just, you're hiring an independent contractor anyway, just give them their own separate contract. At least we'll be able to fill the position and offer a little stability to the kids that are getting these services. Can we do that?
Hiring has been a struggle. Even finding anyone to apply has been difficult. It's a statewide problem.
Well, I understand that, which is why I'm suggesting if we offer more money, since we're paying it anyway, we may have a little advantage over, you know, Wyndham, who's trying to hire for the same position.
Hiring people for the position or getting applicants for the position has been a challenge. We've been searching throughout the year, and understanding that, you know, salaries, and they can go to clinical settings and things like that to make additional salary. But they are part of the collective bargaining agreement, so that doesn't give us a lot of options as far as that goes, because we need to respect the collective bargaining agreement.
Erica Leon, 84 Shanito. I know I was up, but I actually have a follow-up to that great question. What is prohibiting us from hiring non-union employees, especially in such a shortage?
There's also, we've used independent contractors in the past, and we've had an audit that was done, and the IRS has said we cannot use independent contractors for positions. We need to use companies. So that has been another avenue that we've been closed off to this year that we have used in the past. And that's by guidance of the IRS, and we've looked into every way around that, but there is no way around that.
Okay, thank you. And is there anything that can be done at the state level to help that, or is that simply a federal issue where we cannot otherwise help?
It's with the IRS. It's just federal. We've had tax attorneys weigh in on this, and we've explored all options, and there's just no. It is what it is as far as their guidance to us.
Thank you for all that work and that information.
Brian Churchill, 6 Rollins Street. Quick question. I was reading the book on the special needs, not special needs, what's the right word I'm looking for? I'm sorry? It looks like that's a driver for the schools, the percentage, and I know you had made mention in the book about trying to get more state cooperation and whatnot. Are we actually asking our delegation at the U.S. Senate and House to fully fund these programs? Because it seems to me that we're not fully funded from the federal government as well. And to be fair, I think we need to start pushing. If we're the 3rd largest school district, we need to start pushing that on our senators and say we want to fully be funded federally for some of these programs. So it shouldn't be on our taxpayers all the time. So.
Anyone else? All right. Oh, here we go.
Debbie Pierce, 62 Adams Pond, Derry, New Hampshire. One follow-up question on the ventilation improvements that were made. What were they specifically?
We changed the filters we used in all the schools for better filtering. That is the big improvement that I know of. I'm going to look to...
Is this done in all the schools?
To my knowledge, yes, but I will look to Jane for more information on that.
Sure. We've increased the number of times that we change out the air purifier filters. We use MERV 13s now. So instead of doing them twice a year, we do them every other month. We also have air purifiers in every room that does not have access to a window in all of our schools. We also have a mechanical engineer firm that comes through. They came through again at the end of summer, beginning of school, to make sure that any of the components of the ventilation was working properly and that the outflow and intake of fresh air is working properly. We're also going to be going out to bid for cleaning of all of our systems. And because we're also going through a facilities assessment, any major upgrades to ventilation would be taken care of using Esser funds once that assessment is completed.
Was there determination of how efficient that air cleaner is?
Was there a determination of how efficient it is?
Yes.
I don't have the report on hand, but all of the ventilation is efficient to code and working properly before school started, and is continually checked to make sure that the ventilation is within the requirements.
Is it rated effective enough to mitigate the COVID-19 concerns?
I don't know the answer to that question, I'm sorry.
Can you find the answer to that, please?
I can, sure. Thank you.
David Clapp, 3 Barkland Drive. So I would follow up to Mr. Chairlow's point to other funding. I mean, we have a state rep delegation that can help us as well, and I know there's a committee that meets between the town council, the school board, and the state rep delegation, and the last time they met was March of 2021. I would argue that they should be meeting multiple times a year, once a quarter, or whatever that time frame is. And we need to work together with these guys to help with the funding issues that we have, because clearly we have them. You know, not to get, just to point out one perspective, in this current year budget, I think our pension costs went up $700,000 from the previous year. As Erica mentioned, the state stopped funding this program a long time ago, and it's all on the taxpayers. So I would suggest that, you know, what can we do about that? There was a bill back in April of 2021 that offered 5% back to the cities and towns. That was a solution. I don't remember how they all voted, but I think if we get together and talk between the council, the school board, and the state rep delegation together with constructive conversations, maybe together we can work on more funding from the state level as well, not just the federal level. So I think that's something we got to do a better job at, because we can't meet once since 2021. And I just think, you know, there's a lot of talk out there that we just need better communication amongst all three branches of our system here. And yeah, I mean, that's what I got. Thank you.
Good morning again. Richard Tripp, 44 Wyndham Drive. I'd like to follow up on what Mr. Chircello said. I understand that special education is a large portion of our budget, and it's a large portion of the Pinkerton budget. And as it's a federal mandate, not a state mandate, you know, I believe the school should make serious efforts to contact our federal representatives and senators and see what can be done about this unfunded mandate. In the state of New Hampshire, if a law is passed that affects municipalities and counties, and it's not funded, then that's against the law. And I believe that the same thing should be with the federal government. If they're passing a law that mandates that the schools spend excessive funds for something that the federal government is mandating, then there should be some pushback. You know, I believe that you guys are probably members of educational associations. I would ask that you put this on any meeting agendas so that it can be discussed and some action taken. Thank you.
Hi, Michael Land, 84 Sinead Road. When I'm listening to the funding discussions up here, another thing I wanted to mention, we looked at and we heard one of the biggest growing items is the retirement budget. When I looked at the graphs, I turned to my wife and said, is that a sustainable curve? At some point it keeps growing. If we look across industries, I work in drug development. Used to be that everyone got a pension, their retirement was paid for. The minute that switched to 401k or you pay for your own retirement, jobs flourished, pay went up. People kept the money rather than saying, I'm dependent on my employer. Maybe it's something the school district can look at going forward with some kind of transition, because we've already made promises to people hired, we're going to pay for your retirement.
Michael, just so you know, that is not an option we have. We have to, by law, pay into New Hampshire retirement.
That's a state law.
That is a state law that we have to pay into New Hampshire retirement.
Thank you.
I do have someone in the other room that wishes to speak. And there is a 45-second delay between us and the room. Oh, they've changed their mind.
Good morning, Rick Metz, 8 Dustin Ave. I've got two questions, actually. A few years ago, and correct me if I'm wrong, the state allowed school districts to put money in a fund, an unreserved fund, up to a certain percentage. Can you tell me where Derry stands in that right now?
So you are talking about the bill about retained funds?
Yes.
So at the end of the year, we are able to vote as a board to take whatever is left over and put, it used to be until last year, 2.5% of the budget into retained funds. Last year, we put a warrant on the school board ballot, which asked to increase that to 5 so that we could balance out our tax impact. It passed. So this past year, we did retain the full 5%. And the rule about that 5% is that we retained it last summer, and then over the course of the year, you have two options. Either you can spend it on an emergency that comes up in the course of that year, or if there is no emergency, you have to give it back to taxpayers the next year. So it is not a rainy day fund. It can be held for 1 year and must be given back afterward.
So the second part of that question, on the MS-26, the last line under revenues is 3.7 million in the reserve fund. Is that 5% included in that?
Yes, it is. That also includes money from a health insurance rebate we got.
Okay. That's a lot of money. How much of that 3.7 was that reserve fund that had to be returned?
About 2.8.
2.8. So your unexpended is 900,000. Am I correct in assuming that?
So it's been a lot higher in recent years than in the past, because during the COVID years, we weren't always sure what could be spent by COVID and what couldn't. So for instance, we had budgeted to buy a lot of computers, and then we were found that we could actually use COVID funds to spend them, so that money was unspent. Or we had positions we couldn't fill or didn't need into transportation funds because of COVID. So the past 2 years, we've had a higher than normal amount unspent.
So my follow-up final question is, out of that 3.7, will you vote to put 5% aside again this year as an emergency contingency fund?
No, you're talking about two different numbers. That 3.7 is already in the budget. We don't vote on that. That's already done.
So that's money that, and this has been my contention for several years, is that $3.7 million is not spent, but it is not in the local economy. It stays in it. It seems like it rolls over. That amount rolls over.
Sir, included in that 3.7 million is a health rebate we didn't even know we were getting.
I understand that. But I have been told in the past that fund balance is that way because we need it for emergency contingencies. That's my point. So you can't have the 5% and then that much unspent in your budget at the end of the year. That's my personal opinion. I come at it with a little bit of experience for those that know me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Erica Leon, 84 Shanita Road. My question, going back to the state tying our hands about offering teachers more pay to unbundle from the retirement system. There's a bill, House Bill 1590. It's an early bill. I co-sponsored it. It's coming out of the committee and expedient to legislate. If the school board would like to try and meet with our state representative delegation, if that would be helpful for our schools and our taxpayers, we'd be happy to see if you would encourage us to mount an effort to overturn that ITL so that the school board's hands will be untied on that, if we so choose. So I guess if you want to get back to me offline, if we want to coordinate that. Thank you.
Anyone else? So since there's no amendment, there is no vote. I ask the recorder to place the warrant article on the ballot as written. We'll move on to the next article. Shall the school district approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Derry School Board and the Derry Education Association that calls for the following changes in salaries and benefits at current staffing levels over those paid in the prior fiscal year? Year estimated increase 2022-2023, $1,050,000 $52,136. 2023, 2024, $1,072,710. 2024, 2025, $1,090,590. And further raise and appropriate the sum of $1,052,136 for the upcoming fiscal year, 2022, 2023. Such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the changes in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at the current staffing levels. And this is recommended by the Derry School Board. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Couldn't hear you.
Second.
Okay, and is there a presentation?
Yes. Okay, just in summary, the agreement with the Derry Education Association includes a 2% salary increase including steps, so when they move up in years. Second and third year is a 2.2% increase. Coming together at the beginning of negotiations that took a little bit longer this year, both sides wanted to take into account the difficulty in filling open positions. We also took into account the national trend for fewer individuals choosing to go into teaching, as well as an increasing amount of teachers leaving the profession. Knowing that someone had mentioned we have high retirement costs, we have a lot of teachers that are at their top step and have been doing wonderful work for us for many, many years, which means they're going to be retiring soon, and we're going to have several new openings over the next couple of years. So I think the moderate 2% and 2.2% increases were warranted. Our beginning pay step compared to other surrounding towns where we were direct competitors was on the lower level. This will help get us up into that area where we can be more competitive to get the best and brightest teachers into our schools. We also are offering a tuition repayment plan. Again, this is to attract new teachers. It's a fairly small amount. It's up to $2,500 per individual per year. And in hopes that, if someone's coming out of school, they may choose us over another town by having that option. We also looked for our teachers to help develop roots in our town. The trend over the past few years is we've had fewer teachers involved in sports and extracurricular activities. And some of that has to do with how the stipends are paid out. In the past, the stipends were pretty much just level funded across the board. And we found that certain sports or activities required a lot more time. And so if you're a lot more time, you probably should get a little bit more stipend. So we're not adding any new money to the extracurricular and sports activities line in the CBA. But a committee is going to be formed to try to navigate that a little better, rebalance it. So hopefully we can get some more involvement with our teachers, and hopefully that keeps them in our district for longer. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will open the mic up for discussion.
Meg Moisberry, 12 Kendall Pond Road, Derry. I'm a parent, a homeowner, and the president of the Derry Education Association. I just want to say that negotiations are always tough because each side wants to get the best that they possibly can. Sometimes you look for fair, and fair just means that you can walk away from the table and say, we did it. And I think we did a good job this time. We worked really hard. Everybody put in the best effort. I think we have a fair contract. We have a contract that will allow us to bring people to Derry, new teachers, and with the added small amount that we can pay for teachers under Step 7 to be able to help with their student loans, I think is an added positive to our budget. We appreciate all the work that the district did, and we look forward to another 3 years without having to negotiate. Thank you.
Bruce Kling for Village Brook Lane. It used to be that a teacher had to have perfect attendance to get the attendance bonus. Now it's being watered down and they get an attendance bonus even if they use some but not all their vacation time. And when they leave the district, we pay them for the unused vacation time that we already paid them not to use. So I'd like to see a cost-benefit analysis put up on the website that shows how this change is good for the Derry taxpayer. Secondly, we already pay for teachers' tuition to get an advanced degree. Having done so, we also pay a higher salary if they get a certain number of credits toward that degree. Now we are providing a loan repayment assistance where they can get $2,500 from the district toward their loan and not have to reimburse the district. But I don't see any requirement that the teacher has to remain in the district for a set number of years after getting this loan repayment. So I'd like to know what the benefit is to the school district in that circumstance. And I know you're saying it's a 2% increase, but from the annual report, what I'm seeing is for 2023, teachers get a 5.5% increase if in step 2 through 14, and moving to step 15, it's anywhere from a 6.35% to a 7.38% increase. And for fiscal year 2024 and 25, it's a 5.7% increase, step 2 through 14, and 6.5 to 7.6% increase if moving to step 15. And if they're on the last step, they get that 2% increase, but then the longevity pay kicks in, which is equivalent to about 2 to 3% of their pay. So I'm not sure that 2% or 2.2% is a fully realistic statement. Thanks.
Ryan Churchill, 6 Rollins Street. Just a quick question on the bonus, the $2,500 bonus. Is that money that's appropriated, or is that, can we use Esser funds for that? And I apologize, I'm not familiar with the Esser funds.
I do not
the
believe we
strings
can
and-
use Esser funds for that.
I'm sorry?
I do not believe we can use Esser funds for that.
You can't.
Are you talking about the tuition repayment, $2,500?
Yeah, any extra bonus or whatnot? I mean,
There's no bonuses.
Okay, you said $2,500
It's a tuition repayment plan. So they would have to
Okay.
apply for that. It's only up through teachers that are at step 7, so relatively newer teachers. And they do have to finish out the rest of that year. Not to get into the detail of it, but several surrounding towns already have this, so we're just kind of coming up to a competitive level. And at this kind of smaller amount, you typically don't see a multi-year commitment with that.
Okay, and can you just briefly just tell me about the Esser funds? You can't use that to attract or pay bonus? And the reason why I'm saying that, at the county level, we received ARPA money, and we can use ARPA money to help attract nurses and, correction officers, and so we've done that at the county because we recognize it's hard to get people into these positions. And just like someone mentioned, we've got a contract for LNAs, and the contract for LNAs cost us like $38 an hour, where we're paying an LNA, $17 an hour. And so I know that dilemma, but I'm just trying to figure out whether any federal dollars that came in that can help us with any of these bonuses or tuition reimbursements.
The value of that tuition reimbursement is that teachers on the lower level make a lot less than teachers on the upper level. And we will lose teachers early on because they'll go to another district that offers that. So if you look at a teacher retiring and a teacher coming in, the net difference can be as high as $40,000. So if that $2,500 a year incentivizes them to stay here, then we have a net positive.
I'm not questioning the program itself. I think you have to think outside the box. We're doing that with at the county level as well. You have to think outside the box to get people. I get that. I'm just asking, is it coming from the taxpayers, or do we have federal money that can help us achieve that?
And maybe, Jane, do you have some more information on what we can use it for?
I do. So you can use Esser funds to supplement if you wanted to do a bonus or some type of a hiring package. You can use Esser funds for that. That was something, the $2,500 was negotiated into the teacher contract, so that is outside of using Esser funds, but those are appropriate uses.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone?
Well, it's still morning, so good morning. Richard Tripp, 44 Wyndham Road. You mentioned that a portion of the increased cost are due to a number of the teachers being at the end of their careers and at the top of their pay steps. Do you have any estimate as to how many teachers are in that state?
I don't. Jane, do you have any idea? I think it's more, it may be more than 50% of the teachers, but I may be wrong.
We do have that number, I just don't have it in front of me. If you want to give me a minute, I'll look that up.
Could you also let me know how many teachers are covered by the DEA collective bargaining agreement? All of them? Well, that's a very vague number. Is there like, how many teachers does the school district have? Does it have like 300? No?
There's, I believe, approximately 300, it's around 300 that are in the DEA. There's also an assistant contract, which has another.
Well, since we're talking the DEA contract, that would be the number that I'm interested in.
Well, you asked about teachers, so there's both teachers and assistants. So I just want to make sure we're looking at both.
Thank you. I'll be more specific in the future. Well, Jane is getting that number. If we have 50% of the teachers that are near the end of their career, then would you expect that the cost of the contract would go down in future years when they retire?
It potentially could. It just depends on how many retire once. We typically will budget when in the fall during budget session. We will budget a lower level teacher, but I think we're more going towards a mid-level teacher now, just because that seems to be who we're getting. So usually that balance. There's also the retirement incentive, so we have to balance out the outgoing cost with the potentially less expensive newer teacher coming in, so it usually is a wash. The following years after that, then it should be less than having that high step teacher continue.
So the contract, when it was negotiated, there was some estimate of how much the cost of salaries and benefits would be. Is that correct?
That's right. There would be no way to forecast how many people would retire.
So to answer your question regarding where teachers are on steps, if we look at, you were talking about on the higher step, master's level, there's 140, master's plus 15, there's 29, master's plus 30 is 54, and then there's 4 on the doctorate level. So if you were looking at the chart of where everybody's placed on a salary schedule, that would be middle to upper end. And there's 310 positions that look like they are part of the demographics of the teacher scale.
Well, thank you very much.
Lisa Halpern, Warner Hill Road. So since we can use Esser funds to do things like use them to attract people in and sign-on bonuses, why don't we use some of that money and offer sign-on bonuses for paras and speech pathologists and subs to come in? And then if they stay to the end of their one-year contract, they get a bonus. Can we do that? That would certainly make us more competitive.
That is something that the board would have to look at, and we don't have a policy on sign-on bonuses or bonuses in general, so that would have to be something that the board would have to have a policy for. Thank you.
We do have a speaker in the other room. Can't hear him.
It's the delay.
We can't hear you, so give us a moment. We're experiencing a technical difficulty. I do have someone in the room that wants to speak while they're fixing that microphone. Go ahead.
Do I have to say my name and address again?
Yes.
Brian Churchill, 6 Rollins Street. So I apologize, I don't understand the Esser side of those monies. Was that money that was awarded to school districts from the federal government, or do you have to apply for these through like a grant?
ESSER money is money we have access to, but we need to apply through a grant and show that we are spending it on things that qualify under the grant.
So it has strings attached, obviously,
Yes,
right?
it does.
And are those are they very strict guidelines, or?
Yes.
And going back to what we mentioned about, you know, bonuses and stuff like that, this is where I think if we can apply those federal dollars to help us here, instead of raising it on the backs of the taxpayer, that's looking for efficiencies, and that's helping, you know, helping us, you know, with our budget. So is there any information online for Esser so that we could look at the guidelines and whatnot?
Sure. On the New Hampshire Department of Ed website, they have a page dedicated to ESSER funds and appropriate uses. I'm sure there is a federal website as well with probably the Department of Ed, and they give all the guidelines for ESSER. Eric is correct. When the federal government gave us the total amount that would be allocated to each school district, and I have to write specific grants to go to each time we want to spend some of those funds. We have to write a grant to go with it that has a purpose and an outcome and all of those things, and then we receive the money once it's been spent.
So we were just eligible for X.
Correct.
We didn't actually receive X.
I have not received, I only have received, we had ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3. ESSER 1 actually included funds for Pinkerton as well, so we had each under ESSER 1 received a little over $350,000 each, and we have been reimbursed for our portion. We're still waiting for one receipt to have Pinkerton reimbursed. ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds excluded Pinkerton, so that was just for Derry based on numbers of students. And ESSER 3 was over $3 million, and ESSER 2 was over $3 million, and ESSER 3 is over $7 million that is allocated, and we are writing grants towards those.
Okay, is there a time eligibility? Does it go away within a certain amount of time?
It does, it goes away. Each grant goes away after a certain period of time, so ESSER 1 has already, you had to have already spent ESSER 1, I think, by this past September. And then ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 I believe they have to be spent by '24.
Okay, so I'm hoping that we really look hard to get as much money as we possibly can. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
David
1
Clapp, 3
minute.
Barkland Drive.
1 minute. Let's let the room speak, see if the microphone is fixed.
Okay. Should I speak now?
Yes.
All right. Hi, my name is Daniel Ferrarini, 5 Karen Ave, Derry. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Looking at the budget that we have set forth, we have a position for suspension assistant salary, and to my knowledge, that is a teacher that stays after school for kids that are suspended in school. Is that correct?
Sir, you can only speak to the teacher's contract at this time. That is part of the budget.
That position's actually a non-union. It's not included in either of the unions. Yep.
Since that is a non-union position, you can't speak to that because this article is only addressing the union.
Okay, thank you. I will bring that up at a later date.
David Clapp, 3 Barkland Drive. Derek brought this up about the early retirement. Can I speak on that? So I brought this up during fiscal advisory, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but I know we budget for $300,000 to offer a retirement incentive, which I think Derek alluded to. The first year is definitely a wash. We pay out a lump sum, and then years after that, we're saving roughly, could be up to $40,000, as you mentioned, Erica. I think that's something, if we're not exploring that, as everyone brought up as efficiencies, that's something that we need to really look into. And if we're not getting participants in that program, we need to find out why and try to rectify that problem. Because clearly, there's a lot of opportunity there. I think out of $300,000, you can get 6 people a year, a little over 6 people to take advantage of that program. That's significant savings. And if you're getting 6 people every year, that's great. I don't remember the numbers, like, quite frankly. But
This
I think,
year, there's 13.
Oh, okay. Perfect. I guess, thank you.
Hi, Deborah Pierce, 62 Adams Pond Road. Just one more follow-up question on the presentation shown here. When you brought in the information slide about the warrant article, the font is so small that no one could possibly read it. I'm sitting right over there and I couldn't read it. So I'm going to recommend that you maybe have more than one display, maybe position different displays up around, throughout the room so everyone could see it. My follow-up question is on the Esser funds, Esser 3, that I believe you're still writing and applying, for the grants for. Just to follow up on my earlier question, since you don't know the efficiency of the air purification systems that are installed in the schools for mitigating COVID-19, if you could possibly make improvements that have purifiers that mitigate COVID-14 throughout the schools so we can eventually get rid of the mask requirement. I think that would be a good way moving
that's
forward.
not
Ma'am,
on
this
this
is
warrant
this
article.
is not on this warrant. You can only speak to
This
things
is
on
addressing-
Ma'am, you can only speak to things on this warrant article, and that is just the DEA contract right now.
I understand, thank you.
Anyone else?
Erica Lay on 84 Shanita Road. This might be a rookie question, but is the full information of the contract available at all, or is that considered privileged information?
No, it's not privileged information.
I don't know if it's up yet. It may have been up once we ratified it. If it's not, they usually are somewhere on the website. I don't go in there, but it should be.
Okay, thank you. I had never thought to read through it before, but I'm going to now. Thank you. I was just told the entire contract is on the website, so thank you very much.
Richard Tripp, 44 Wyndham Road. I believe that the only content of the contract that is up on the website is the changes. Is that correct?
I believe the changes are on the website. The current contract in its entirety is on the website along with the prior years. And typically they reprint the new contract once it's passed. But right now, the former contract is on there and the new changes in the contract are both on the website.
So it's the responsibility of the individual to merge the two documents together to get an understanding of what the new contract will be. That's a yes or no question.
Tina?
Yep.
Did you say something? I don't know if this microphone's on. I didn't know.
Her microphone's not on.
Pull it closer.
It is on.
The reason the whole contract is not the current, this contract that you're going to vote on is not on the website, is because it's not approved yet. The contract that we're working under is the contract that's on the website fully. The changes to the contract are also shown. If the contract passes, that they will be merged and put on there, but it's not the contract we're working on now. Hope that helps.
Richard Tripp, 44 Wyndham Road. If we don't have a copy of the contract, then how is it expected that we're going to vote on it?
There is a copy of the complete contract we're working under, and the contract online shows exactly what has changed, and it is in bold and explained.
Anyone else? All right. Since there is no amendment, I ask the recorder to place the warrant article on the ballot as written. And we will move on. Article 4. Shall the school district, if Article 3 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 3 cost items only, recommended by the Derry School Board?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Is there a presentation? No
None.
presentation, correct? Okay, so I will open up the mic for discussion.
John.
John,
Jonathan, do you want to speak to that before
I'm speaking about warrant article number 5.
oh, okay, sorry.
Churchill, 6 Rollins Street. Just so I know, has this ever been used before, where it's been defeated and you had to meet? And if so, how does that work? Because I've never seen it since I've been here, so.
It's been on the ballot before, that I know.
No, not the question, the actual, if something gets voted down.
Oh.
We're saying that, you're authorizing the governing body to call one special meeting to address the cost items, so that would mean the school board would have to come back and come up with some other plan, correct? Does that entail a special election after that? If for instance, something was there and it didn't get passed, so going back to the school board figures out a new way forward, or a new part of the budget, so then how does that get approved?
Maybe our attorney can answer that one.
Does it have to go to a special election, or? I'm just curious,
There'd be a special school district meeting followed by an election with an SB2 form of government.
Okay, thank you.
Richard Tripp, 44 Wyndham Road. So the special meeting would not be a meeting where a vote would be taken on the revised contract. It would require a special election.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone? Well, with no changes, I ask the recorder to place the warrant article on the ballot as written. Article 5. Shall the school district approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Derry School Board and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Council Number 93, Local 1801, that calls for the following changes in salaries and benefits at current staffing levels over those paid in the prior fiscal year. Year estimated increased 2022-2023, $268,937. 2023-2024, $189,002. And further raise and appropriate the sum of $268,937 for the upcoming fiscal year of 2022-2023. Such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the changes in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. Recommended by the Derry School Board. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
And your presentation?
First I want to thank the AFSCME Collective Bargaining Agreement team and Mr. Jones for meeting with us and coming to compromises on many of the things that we discussed. This contract that we have proposed is a response to the many unfilled positions that we have from a special education standpoint, as well as assistants. So we are hoping that in the first year, that $1.20 salary increase for the education, special ed, library, and computer assistants does level set with the remainder of the assistants in the district. We also understand that many surrounding districts are increasing their salaries, which are making it much more competitive. We also know that during the current economic times, there are many businesses that are offering higher salaries for what we would be considered to be very important and valuable members of the district. So we want to make sure that we are attracting and retaining as many assistants as we can. We are also wanted to reward and help retain the Project Me and Aisle assistants. We understand, again, they are a valuable part of our district, and they do a lot of physical requirements, so we thought it was important to reward them as well. And we are trying to level set really all of the assistants so that we see that there are a lot of similarities between math, reading, ESOL, as well as the education, special ed, library, and computer assistants. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. I will open up the mic for discussion.
Good morning, Richard Tripp, 44 Wyndham Road. Is it safe to assume that the change pages of this contract are on the website someplace?
Yes, in the same format.
They're also posted under tentative agreements on our website.
I couldn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. They're also posted under tentative agreements on the front page of our website.
So we would be tasked with taking the changes and merging them with the existing contract. Is the existing contract somewhere on the website too? Is it in the human resources area?
Yes, it is. It's under human resources. But on the homepage, like Marianne said, all of the tentative agreements are listed on the left-hand side, about halfway down on the website.
Under tentative agreements.
That's good. You're consistent. Thank you.
Emily Pearson, 83 Lane Road, Derry. My question is mostly towards Jane Smart. If you could give me some information on how, so for Medicare, for our tracking, has that decreased since we have had less special education assistance tracking that in our schools for the past, say, 2 or 3 years?
I mean, I think Laura's probably a better one to talk about Medicare and the assistance with the input. We actually had less Medicaid coming in not necessarily due to the shortage of assistants logging the information, but the requirements that had changed for what things were eligible. So I know that this year we have, under Laura's leadership, have brought in more Medicaid at this point than we had anticipated in our budget. But yes, having less assistants doing the data entry will eventually impact that.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Nancy Parsons. I live at 110 Olson Road in Derry. I'm also an assistant, a reading assistant at Grinnell Elementary School. And it is very easy to sit here and talk about, oh, we're missing 19 assistant positions or however many it is. I'm not sure that you understand the impact that that has on our child's learning. Recently, we completed our benchmarking system for the winter. And I work gratefully in a fully staffed reading support room. And we found that our students had made better than half-year progress. And these are students who have struggled all along, many of the same students we worked with in the past. We had students who made 7 reading levels progress. We had students, many students, the average was maybe 3-point-something reading levels of progress, which is approaching, for students in grades 2 through 5, a year's progress in a half a year. And honestly, we celebrated, of course, but I'm working in a fully funded and fully staffed reading support room. So when you talk about, oh, we're just down 17 assistants, it matters, and it matters a lot. And I'd like to talk also about the funding. And I make currently $18.89 an hour. I have 35 years teaching experience and a master's degree. I work with another reading assistant in that room who also is educated to a master's level. And we have a reading specialist who also works in the room. But I want to tell you that it matters. And the pay that is being offered, I also teach at Nashua North, a credit recovery program for students, high school students who have dropped out or just gotten out of jail or have for some reason not completed high school and are coming back to earn a high school diploma. And I was talking to them about the jobs they have, and almost without exception, they are making more per hour than I am making. Some work for Walmart at a distribution center. They're making $30 an hour. House cleaning, between $22 and $26 an hour. Some are just general labor, $19 to $20 an hour, like at
Ma'am, I'm
Dunkin'
sorry.
Donuts.
Your time is up, but this is exactly why we negotiated this contract the way we did, because you are doing vital work and making vital improvements, and that is exactly why we as a board supported this contract. And we're really glad you could come up here and speak and tell people what it was like.
Am I correct that it's 25 cents an hour increase?
The increase was different at different levels because the special ed assistants, the base pay was under $14 an hour.
Without certification, correct? Certification's not required for that, is that correct?
The requirements are different.
Right, so I'm talking a certified position. Anyway, I just want to encourage you, it matters. And in order to attract either retired teachers or people who are willing, who have that
Ma'am,
education,
your
are
time
willing
is
to
up.
work, I would encourage you to keep looking at that. It matters.
Thank you.
Lisa Halpern, Warner Hill Road.
Come closer, I can't hear you.
Lisa Holgren, Warner Hill Road. Can you please tell me how many employees fall under this contract? You said there were 310 that fell under the teacher's contract. Can you please tell me how many fall under this contract? Including the paper ones. I understand that not all positions are filled.
We're going to look up that number.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have another question while she was looking that up?
Well, I can probably make the point without the actual number. So when we're talking about the increase for the teacher salary, which is very much deserved, by the way, we're talking about millions. And when we're talking about the increase for the paras and the special ed and the literary assistants, we're talking about, what, 200,000? And some of these people have just as much education, and believe me, they work just as hard. And I think this is why we are unable to get people to fill these positions, because honestly, you can make just as much working at Dunkin' Donuts pouring coffee, and you don't work as hard. Do you have a number?
I do have. I am so sorry to everybody's ears for that. Kathy Kennedy, our Human Resources Director, is in the audience, and she just texted me the number is 175.
175, thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
So it still doesn't seem like it's not equal there. And I do understand that some of these positions are uncertified, but the teachers can't do their jobs without support. And these kids need help. These are our most vulnerable kids that we're placing in the hands of these people. They don't get the training and they don't get the pay. It's why we can't fill the positions. And it's also why it's statewide. Because if you look at the rest of the state, they're doing the same thing. Mr. Chiricello said it. Think outside the box. Let's do something different and get good people in to help our kids. Thank you.
Brian Churchill, 6 Rollins Street. Can you go back to the question itself? And I want to ask, who helps form that question? Is it the school board themselves, or how the question is on the ballot?
I imagine it's a legal format, but
It's legal, and they are also drafted and approved by the New Hampshire Department of Revenue.
Okay.
Yes.
My suggestion, and I don't know if this could be possible, but when you're looking at that, can we have another separate column that actually shows the percentage of increase from like year over year? So when you put it on the ballot, in other words, if you went back to that question, you'll see it. Can we put that on the question, the actual percentage of increase? Is that allowed? I don't know. I'm just asking out of curiosity. And maybe the attorney can answer it. I don't know.
It's something the board can look into. I can tell you, as a practical matter, it isn't done. Usually the problem is when you try and explain one part of an article, you've neglected another and perhaps misguided people. And so
I apologize. Maybe I didn't state my question properly. So if you could go back on the screen.
No.
I don't know who's controlling that, but.
No. I understand your question, but in order to give a totally accurate summary of everything that's affected by that article, I don't think it's as simple as you're setting forth.
I'm not asking for a summary. I'm asking for the percentage of increase over last year's budget. So there is an increase. You have a dollar amount, but I want to know a percentage. That's just simple math. It's not a summary. Did I not state my question properly? I don't know. Sorry. We can't do that?
I can check with the Department of Revenue. Typically, they have all the templates, and we do the same template that are required by law.
Okay, thank
Yep,
you.
thank you.
Hi, Deborah Pierce, 62 Adams Pond Road. I just want to clarify, are you saying that some of these positions for like reading and math assistance support for kids, those jobs are unfilled? Is that what I heard? Okay. Now, my question is, what are the qualifications? And do they have to have like certificates to fill those positions? Teaching certificates? I'm just looking for general information.
Well, it depends on the position, what the qualifications and certifications are. For general special education assistants, there is no degree or certification required for that.
Okay, I was actually just kind of curious because once I volunteered as a tutor for math, but I was told I couldn't do it because I didn't have a teacher certificate. I have a bachelor's in computer science, but they still turned me down. So I was just curious about that.
Yes, and I don't have all of the answers to those. Our Human Resources Director would, but some of the positions that are federally funded, typically the reading assistants have always been certified teachers, and I believe the math were as well, but I would have to check on that.
I'm just suggesting that if you're actually really looking for people to help with the kids, maybe you should relax some of the certifications. Thank you.
You have Title I math is the same thing in terms of certifications, yes.
Anyone else? With no amendments, I ask the recorder to place the warrant article on the ballot as written. 6, warrant 6. Shall the school district, if Article 5 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 5 cost items only, recommended by the Derry School Board. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
A second? Thank you. And there's no presentation, correct? All right, I open the mic up for discussion. No discussion? All right, I will ask the recorder to place that warrant article on the ballot as written. Number 7. Shall the school district vote to authorize the school board to enter an agreement with the next charter school to modify the term, duration of its lease of space at the Gilbert H. Hood Middle School that will allow the charter school to finance the construction of improvements to the leased space, all on such terms and conditions as the school board determines are in the best interest of the school district, recommended by the Derry School Board. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Paul. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Jessica. And is there a presentation? No?
Yeah. Currently, the next charter school occupies a portion of Gilbert H. Hood Junior or Middle School. It was formerly the technology education, and then before that, the industrial arts area. And the district has a contract, a 10-year contract, which expires in 2026. This gives us and them the opportunity to renegotiate another longer-term contract, which will in turn enable next charter school to obtain funding to do necessary renovations inside the school. Now, those renovations consist of reconfiguration of some of the floor space, adding adequate bathroom facilities, and building I don't want to use the term barrier, but a wall between the remainder of the middle school and the students at Next, in addition to opening up a couple of windows so that they had see to the outside on the other side. Some of the rooms don't have currently or will not have any type of ventilation, natural ventilation, or vision lighting, natural lighting to the outside. So this allows us to renegotiate that contract to a term that's acceptable by both parties.
Thank you, and I will open the mic up for discussion.
Erica Lay on 84 Shanita Road. I just want to speak to what an amazing asset Next Charter School is to our town, our students, and our taxpayers. I greatly appreciate this effort in order to allow them to continue to deliver such a quality education, especially to those students who don't fit well in the other molds, and to deliver excellence, both in financial restraint and in outcomes in their lives so that they can really thrive. So I'm greatly in support of this. I thank you all, and I know all the families that benefit from this, both directly and indirectly. Thank you too.
Debbie Pierce, 62 Adams Pond Road. Can I just get some clarification? This charter mentions that it's going to be modifying terms. Is the new term that being added that it's being added oversight of the school board, or is that existing?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand the question. It was you had some question about the difference in terms.
What is it says that it's modifying the terms. Is the modification adding oversight of the school board, or is that already existing?
Please, the second part again. Is the...
Paul, I can take that.
Again.
We have two positions on their board.
Okay.
We have one voting member and one non-voting member. The superintendent of our district is also on their board, so we do have oversight.
Okay, so that already exists.
That's correct.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I just couldn't hear you.
Good morning, Butch Tempe, Bowers Road. Just want to follow up with what Erica had said. Just at our last meeting recently with the school board, we had some students from the next school there, charter school there, and it was an absolute phenomenal presentation, eye-opening presentation. So hats off to the next charter program, and I am completely in support of this, and I think we need to bring more light to Next. It was completely eye-opening, their presentation. So I suggest anybody that missed it, please review the meeting, ask questions. It's a phenomenal program. So thank you.
Good morning again, Richard Tripp, 44 Wyndham Road. I assume since this is a new contract, it's going to be under the tentative contract section of the school website?
Yes.
And the existing contract is going to be under the human
We
resources?
don't, it's just a lease contract. We just lease space to them.
I don't care what kind of contract it is. I just want to know where it's located so it can be reviewed.
Currently, the contract that we have does not expire until 2026. So what we're discussing now is giving the board the authority to negotiate the terms of a new contract when it's expired.
Oh.
So the
So there's
contract, what we're talking about now, hasn't been drafted yet.
So you just, the warrant article is simply authorizing the board to pursue modifying the existing contract?
That
Yes.
is correct.
The reason for this is because Next does not see value in making improvements to its space if it doesn't know it will live in that space long-term.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I have one more question, but it's not really relative to this. I'm wondering...
Is it relative
If it's
to
not
Next?
relevant to this warrant article, you can't ask it.
All right, well, I'll ask the question in a way that makes it warrant relative. I assume that the discussion and the result of the discussion is going to be contained within the minutes of the deliberative session. When will those minutes be available?
I don't know the exact timeline of when our recorder writes up the minutes, but they will be available as soon as possible.
And they'll be located somewhere.
Our minutes are always on the website under school board minutes. Both the video and the minutes will be put there.
Thank you very much.
Erica Leon, 84 Shanita Road. I'm sure you all have that memorized by now. I'm not sure the process to suggest an amendment. I'm actually looking at this and saying modify the term. Since the intention is to extend it in order to allow them to do financing, would it make sense to amend this warrant article to read next charter school to extend the term/duration of its lease?
It says modify because I believe there's issues with how they're allowed to change their space that may be representative in a new contract so that they can do that.
So that means that they may shorten the lease as well?
No, what I mean by,
Yeah, excuse me, the terms would include what they being next, what they would be attempting or negotiating to do physically with the space. In other words, if they wanted to, let's say, put an overhead garage door on the side of the building, we may say, that's not quite acceptable. So whatever plans they come up with would be part of that negotiation beyond the duration of the contract, which would be another separate issue altogether.
Thank you. Then would wording it modify the term and consider extension and extend the duration of its lease be an appropriate change in wording?
Well, it wouldn't be extended, it would be a new contract with a new term on it, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it happens to be. So it wouldn't be an extension of the current contract, it would in fact be a new contract from 2026 onward.
Okay, I'm trying to understand it. I thought that this modifying the term or duration was to allow them to finance those changes and that it would extend the current contract.
it's not to allow them to finance the changes. What it is to give them the certainty that we will negotiate with them for an extended lease so that they don't feel like they're financing changes and then they're kicked out of their space in 3 years.
My hope was we could just give them that certainty of extending the duration as well at this point with this authorization. So I guess I don't know if this is appropriate, but do I move to amend it to read, modify the term and extend the duration of its lease of space at the Gilbert H. Hood Middle School, ... Is that?
So, you know, I think it's open right now. If for some reason they want to make certain improvements and they need one lease for that length of time to do those improvements and then subsequently have to renew for another length of time, it's open right now. With your change, it would just be purely an extension. You know, I don't know what the exact circumstances are. I think it was intentionally left to be kind of a broad authority to deal with it.
Okay, I feel like this leaves a lot of trust. I hope that the intention is to continue extending this because this is a gem in our community. Perfect. I've just learned to be careful of wording, so thank you.
Are you withdrawing your amendment?
Yes, well, it was never seconded. So
Okay.
since it was never seconded, it wasn't a...
Well, I didn't even ask for a second because I didn't know if you were withdrawing it.
Absolutely, it just
Thank you.
disappears. Thank you.
Richard Tripp, 44 Wyndham Road. The way I understand this warrant is, as Mr. Lutz explained, that this is simply authorizing the board to negotiate a new contract. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Will this contract require voter approval?
It would be part of the warrant. It would be part of the warrant in the year in which it was negotiated.
So effectively, there would be a warrant next year to approve the new contract with the next school.
Not next year. It doesn't expire till 2026.
Right. It wouldn't be next year because next year it would still be in effect, the current contract. So it wouldn't be until the contract expired in 2026 that means that it would probably be on the 2026 warrant.
But now I'm getting confused because I understand that the purpose of the negotiations is to allow them to make modifications to the space. That if the new contract is not going to be approved until 2026, that means that they can't start those modifications. Is that correct?
No, what it is that they don't want to start modifications if they're not certain they're going to be able to extend their lease, because they don't want to spend money on something they'll then need to leave.
So I don't know the facts on this one, but I assume the negotiations will take place between now and the next school district meeting. So at the next school district meeting, there would be a new lease presented and presented to the school district meeting for passage.
So it wouldn't require voter approval?
Peter just said that it would. There would be a new lease to be approved when this runs out.
But he also said that it would be presented at the next school board meeting.
No, he said the next school district
School
meeting.
district meeting. All right, sorry, I'll have to listen harder. Thank you.
No.
Anyone else? Okay. With no amendment, I ask the recorder to paste the warrant article on the ballot as written. So I would like to thank everyone involved today in making sure.
Hey, Tina, before we close, there is one more thing.
Okay.
Brenda, could you?
Thank you. I'd actually like a moment of personal privilege, please.
Bring the microphone a little closer so you can be heard.
Sorry. A moment of personal privilege, please.
Okay.
On behalf of the Derry School Board, I would like to sincerely thank Mary Ann Condas-Krikorian for her 36 years of dedicated service. Her passion and compassion for our district, our community, and our children is unmatched. Thank you, Mary Ann. Your footprints leave, sorry, I had to catch myself. Your footprints leave reminders of kindness in every single school. Your mantra of children first, learning, growing, and communicating, or connecting, will continue to serve our children, not only now, but long into their futures. We wish you really good weather and lots of sunshine to enjoy field hockey and lacrosse games, your family, and we wish you the best. Thank you for everything.
Those are beautiful, thank you. Now my husband gets out of buying me flowers. He'll like that, trust me. So on behalf of really myself and my family, I should say my family too, thank you and thank you all for being here today. Thank you for supporting our school district the way that you do. And primarily by school district, I mean our students, certainly our staff, our comprehensive staff, and of course, our entire community, because our community is nothing without our students and staff and all of you. So I hope that all of you have a wonderful weekend with your families, and I would like to especially recognize Gilbert H. Hood Middle School Chorus today and our select chorus, all of our musical programs throughout our elementary schools and both of our middle schools are fabulous. And it's nice to take time to recognize them, although they're not in person today. We value each and every one of our musical programs and all of our activities and each and every one of our students throughout the district. So thank you for your recognition, and most importantly, thank you for being you, and thank you for sharing our most precious resource, which is your children. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you soon.
Thank you, Marianne. I had something written up too, so that's all right.
No,
But-
you can go ahead and say it.
No, that's all right. But I would like to thank everyone that was involved today. Marianne, for all your assistance. Everyone who tried to make everything go off without a hitch. I really didn't think it was going to, being my first time and my first deliberative session. Special thank you to Mary Ellen and Kathleen. I want to thank all the voters who came today and participated. It is only through involvement that we can grow into the community that we wish to live in. And when everybody stays home, it stinks. So I would like to remind everyone of our school board candidate forum on March 2nd at the Derry Opera House at 6:30 p.m. and the town candidate forum on March 3rd, also at the Derry Opera House at 6:30 p.m. And I want to see everyone out on March 8th at Calvary Bible Church, 145 Hampstead Road from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. for all districts to vote. And this meeting is adjourned.